The notification appears at 6:47 inches the morning, before my alarm goes off, before my coffee finishes brewing, before I've had a single moment to prepare myself for what the day is about to become. I'm still lying in bed, phone face up on the nightstand, when the banking app lights up the ceiling. I almost swipe it away. I almost roll over and go back to sleep. Instead, I sit up, squinting against the glow of the screen, and I read the words twice because they don't make sense the first time. Account balance, $312.40. I stare at it. I blink. I open the app all the way and I stare at the transaction history. And there it is, a single outgoing wire transfer dated 2 days ago. The amount so large I actually say it out loud to my empty apartment just to hear how absurd it sounds. $119,642. Gone. My name is Maya, and I am 29 years old, and until 6:47 on a Tuesday morning in March, I believed I had built something solid. I believed I had built something that no one could touch. I was wrong. Let me go back, because this story doesn't start with a wire transfer. It starts 11 years ago, with a promise. I grew up in a small house in Naperville, Illinois, the kind of neighborhood where every driveway has a basketball hoop and every garage smells like motor oil and cut grass. My parents weren't wealthy. My father worked as a shift supervisor at a distribution warehouse for 23 years. My mother taught 3rd grade for almost as long. We were comfortable the way a lot of middle-class families are comfortable, meaning we had enough. But enough had a ceiling, and everybody knew where the ceiling was. I have one sibling. My brother is 4 years older than me, 33 now, and his name is Derek. Growing up, Derek was the kind of son my parents talked about at the dinner table, like he was a minor celebrity. He was charming in that easy, effortless way that made adults want to give him things. He played baseball through high school, nearly went to college on a partial scholarship before he decided he'd rather go to trade school, then decided he'd rather not do that either. By the time I graduated high school, Derek had already started and stopped 3 different career paths, borrowed money from my parents twice that I knew about, and moved back home once for 8 months. I watched all of this happen and I made a private decision, the way young women sometimes do when they see the shape of a pattern forming. I decided I would never ask my parents for money. I would build my own. I worked through college. I took out loans for the rest, paid them off, within 4 years of graduating. I got a job in marketing at a mid-sized tech company in Chicago, moved up steadily, learned to save aggressively, lived below my means in a way that my friends found quietly impressive and occasionally depressing. By 26, I had $40,000 in savings. By 28, after some smart index fund decisions and a promotion, that number had grown considerably. The joint account was my father's idea, and I want to be precise about that because it matters. 3 years ago, my father called me on a Sunday afternoon. He and my mother had been talking, he said. They were thinking about retirement, thinking about the future. They'd started a family savings account years ago, a fund they'd been adding to for most of their married life. Money set aside for emergencies and for helping the family in times of need. He said they were thinking of adding me as a joint account holder. They trusted me, he said. They'd always trusted me. My mother, who was on the extension, said she just felt better knowing I had access, in case something happened to them, in case something needed to be handled quickly. I said yes because they were my parents, and they trusted me, and I thought we were talking about catastrophic scenarios, car accidents, medical emergencies, the things no family wants to imagine but every family should plan for. I never imagined I was being handed a vulnerability. For 2 years, the joint account sat quietly in the background of my life. I had my own accounts, my own money, my own momentum. I checked the joint account occasionally, when my parents mentioned it, saw the balance sitting healthy, didn't think much about it. My name was on it. That was all. Then, 14 months ago, my father mentioned offhandedly that Derek was having a tough time. He and his wife were struggling. Their business, a small landscaping operation Derek had started with a friend 3 years earlier, was losing money faster than it was making it. My father's voice had that particular softness it always got when Derek was the subject, that lowering of tone that I'd come to recognize as the sound of an excuse being carefully prepared. I said I was sorry to hear it. I asked if there was anything I could do. My father said no. No, they'd figure it out. I believed him. That was my second mistake. I'm standing in my kitchen holding my phone with both hands when I call my mother. It's not quite 7 in the morning. She answers on the second ring. which means she's already awake, which means some part of her has been waiting for this call. Maya. Her voice is careful. Mom. I set the phone on the counter and put it on speaker because my hands are starting to shake and I need to put them somewhere. Can you explain to me why there is a wire transfer for almost $120,000 from the joint account? The pause is 3 seconds long. I count them. Your father and I wanted to help your brother. I stand in my kitchen in my pajamas and I listen to my mother explain it the way you explain something to someone you're hoping won't be too upset about it. She uses words like investment and family and temporary. She says Derek's business needed an infusion, that without it they would have lost everything. She says they didn't want to worry me. She says my father thought I'd understand once they explained it. You didn't tell me, I say. You wired $120,000 from an account with my name on it, and you didn't tell me. We knew you'd make it a bigger thing than it needed to be. I replay that sentence in my head. I turn it over. I look at it from every angle. Mom, that account had my name on it. Legally. It was our money, Maya. I am a joint account holder. That means it's also legally my account. You can't make a transfer of that size without my knowledge and expect me to. We're not asking for your permission. Her voice has shifted. It's gotten that clipped, firm quality it gets when she's decided the conversation is going in a direction she doesn't like. Derek needed help. We helped him. That's what families do. I end the call. I sit down on my kitchen floor, which is something I've never done before, and I just sit there on the cold tile with my back against the cabinet and I try to breathe slowly. I want to be honest about what I felt in that moment, because I think it matters. It wasn't just anger. It was something older and more specific than anger. It was the feeling of realizing that a thing you believed about yourself, that you were protected, that you had been careful enough, that you had built high enough walls, was wrong. It was the feeling of realizing that the opening in the wall had been there the whole time, and that you had put it there yourself. I call my father an hour later. I am calmer by then. I have made a list. My father is not angry the way my mother was. He's something worse. He's disappointed, not in himself. In me. I thought you were more mature than this, he says. Dad, tell me exactly what happened. He explains it the way he explained things to me when I was 12, and had done something wrong slowly, patiently, like I'm the one who needs correcting. Derek came to them 6 weeks ago. The landscaping business was far under. There were debts to suppliers, a failed equipment loan, 3 employees who hadn't been paid in weeks. The bank wouldn't extend more credit. Derek and his wife were about to lose their house. My parents had gone through their own savings, didn't have enough to cover it. The joint account, my father says, was the only option. It has my name on it. I say again. Did you think about that? We figured you'd want to help your brother. You figured. Without asking me. You've always been so good with money, Maya. You don't need it the way he does. There it is. I've been waiting for it. That specific sentence. The one that says being responsible is its own punishment. The one that says the better you manage your life, the less entitled you are to the life you've managed. Being good with money doesn't mean my money is available to anyone who isn't. I say. Nobody took your money. That account. My name is on it, Dad. A lawyer would tell you in about 4 minutes that this is a very gray area at best and a serious legal problem at worst. He goes quiet. I don't know if I've gotten through to him or if he's just waiting for me to finish. With my father and Derek, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between listening and waiting. I love you, I say, because I do. But I need you to understand that what happened is not okay, and I need to understand what the plan is to fix it. He says he'll call me back. He does not call me back that day. I spend the afternoon doing something I've never had to do before. I call a lawyer. Her name is Patrice, and a colleague at work had used her for a real estate dispute 2 years earlier and said she was precise and direct and didn't waste your time. I tell Patrice the situation in as much detail as I can manage. She asks several questions. She types something I can hear through the phone. Then she tells me 3 things, in order. First, because my name is on the account, the transfer is technically within the legal authority of any joint account holder, so the threshold for an outright fraud claim is complicated. Not impossible, but complicated. Second, depending on the original account agreement and how contributions were structured, I may have a legitimate civil claim for a portion of the funds, particularly if I can demonstrate that I was added as a joint holder under specific, limited terms that weren't followed. Third, my options right now are broader than I think they are, but that window doesn't stay open indefinitely. I thank her. I ask her to start reviewing what she needs. That night, I open my laptop and I pull up every document I can find related to the joint account. The original account agreement, emails from 3 years ago when my father first suggested it, text messages, a paper statement I'd kept in my files for no reason other than that I keep paper statements. I build a folder, I label it clearly, I close the laptop, and I make dinner, and I eat it standing at the counter, and I do not cry, which I note because it surprises me. My mother calls me 3 days later. She says she's been thinking. She says she and my father had talked, and they understood that the situation had been handled poorly. I notice the word poorly, not wrongly, not unfairly, poorly, as in regrettable, as in unfortunate, as in a matter of execution rather than intent. I let her finish. Then I say what I've been preparing to say. I want to be repaid, I say. All of it. I'm not negotiating the amount. Silence. Maya. I've spoken to a lawyer. I keep my voice even. I've practiced keeping my voice even. I want you to understand that I'm not saying this to be dramatic or to threaten anyone. I'm saying it because it's true and because I think you deserve to know where I stand. $119,000 left in account with my name on it without my knowledge or consent. I want it back. Derek doesn't have it. I know he doesn't have it. That's why I'm talking to you. Another silence, longer this time. I hear my father's voice somewhere in the background, low, asking something I can't make out. We can't give you that kind of money, my mother says. We don't have it. Then we have a problem that needs a solution. She asks if we can meet. In person. All of us. She says maybe if we sit down together and talk like a family it will be easier. She uses the word family 3 times in 90 seconds. I count. I say yes. I choose the day. I choose the place, my apartment, not their house. I've learned enough about dynamics in the past week to know that location is not a neutral variable. Derek calls me the night before we're supposed to meet. I almost don't pick up. Hey. His voice sounds like it always sounds loose and slightly apologetic. The voice of a man who has been forgiven so many times that apologizing has become a reflex rather than a reckoning. Mom said you wanted to talk. We're meeting tomorrow. Yeah, I know, I wanted to call first. Just you and me. I sit on my couch. I wait. I didn't know they were going to use that account, he says. I didn't know your name was on it. I'm quiet for a moment because I want to choose my next words carefully. Do you believe that changes anything? I'm just saying I didn't do it on purpose. The money is still gone, Derek. He exhales. Business is hard right now. You don't know how hard it is. I have heard this sentence in various forms for most of my adult life. I have heard it when Derek dropped out of trade school and when he quit the plumbing apprenticeship, and when the landscaping business was first starting, and then when it was first struggling, and then when it was failing, and then now. After the failing has been subsidized by $119,000 taken from an account I was on without my knowing. I don't doubt that it's hard, I say. But I worked very hard to save what I saved, and now it's gone, and I need it back. We'll pay you back, he says. I need more than that. What does that mean? It means I need something in writing. It means I need a schedule. It means I need to know that this is a real plan and not a promise. He doesn't say anything for a moment. When he speaks again, his voice is different, not the loose, apologetic voice. Something tighter. You know Mom and Dad are stressed out about this. So am I. They're not young, Maya. Dad's heart. Don't, I say. Please don't do that. He stops. I love Dad, I say. I love both of them. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? It's about $119,000. He doesn't call back. The meeting happens on a Saturday afternoon. My parents arrive first, together, my mother with a ceramic dish of the pasta bake she makes for gatherings and funerals alike. My father with the expression he wears when he's decided something is going to be difficult, but he's going to try to be reasonable about it. Derek arrives 12 minutes later with his wife, Lauren, who I genuinely like, and who has always treated me decently, and who looks like she has barely slept in recent memory. We sit at my dining room table. My mother sets out the pasta. I don't get plates. I put a folder on the table. Inside the folder are the account documents, a printout of the transaction, a 1-page repayment agreement that Patrice helped me draft, and a letter she prepared outlining my legal standing in plain, non-threatening language. My father looks at the folder the way people look at things they'd rather not acknowledge. I put this together, I say, so that we could have a real conversation about a real plan, instead of a conversation that feels important but doesn't result in anything. My mother starts to say something about family. I interrupt her gently. I've been part of this family my entire life, I say. I've been part of this family in ways that didn't always get acknowledged. I didn't ask for help when I was in school. I didn't ask for help when I was starting my career. I built what I have myself, and I'm proud of that, and I would like to keep it. I look around the table. Derek, Lauren, I know things are hard. I know you didn't plan for the business to fail. I'm not here to punish anyone. But I can't pretend that $119,000 is a small thing, because it isn't. And I can't pretend I'm fine when I'm not. Lauren speaks first. She says she's sorry. She says it simply and directly and without qualification, and I believe her. Derek is looking at the table. My father picks up the folder. He opens it. He reads the repayment agreement, a structured 5-year plan with monthly installments, the total amount plus a modest 3%, which Patrice suggested was reasonable, and showed I was not approaching this with malice. 3%, he says. That's less than inflation, I say. That's less than a savings account. He nods slowly. He keeps reading. My mother asks if we can reduce the amount. I ask her what she thinks would be fair. She doesn't answer. Mom. I keep my voice quiet. If a stranger had done this, if someone outside the family had accessed an account with my name on it and transferred that much money without telling me, what would you tell me to do? She looks at the pasta dish. You'd tell me to go to the police, I say. You'd tell me to protect myself. That's what I'm doing. I'm protecting myself, and I'm trying to do it in the least painful way I know how. My father sets the folder down. He looks at Derek for a long moment, one of those looks that passes between fathers and sons, that contains years of things neither of them has fully said, and then he looks at me. We'll sign it, he says. Derek's head comes up. We're not the family that does this to each other, my father says, and his voice is rough at the edges in a way I've only heard a few times in my life. We made a mistake. A big one. And we're going to fix it. Derek and Lauren sign. My parents sign. I sign last. Patrice will notarize it on Monday. My mother cries a little, quietly, in the way she cries when she's ashamed rather than sad. She reaches for my hand across the table and I let her take it, because I am angry but I am not heartless, and because the two things can exist at the same time. We eat the pasta. Nobody says very much. Lauren tells me about their eldest daughter's school play. My father asks about my job. Derek keeps his eyes mostly down, and I understand that whatever processing he needs to do, he will do it privately, in his own time, and I am not responsible for his timeline. After they leave, I stand at the window for a long time, looking out at the city. It's early evening, and the streetlights have come on, and the sky is that specific deep blue that lasts for about 15 minutes before it turns dark. I think about the night 3 years ago, when my father called and asked if I'd be willing to have my name on the account, and how I had said yes without thinking, because it was my father, and because I trusted him, and because I was 26 years old and I still thought that trust was a thing that could be extended without a cost. I don't regret trusting them. I know that sounds strange given everything, but I think the regret would have been heavier. It would have lived in me differently, settled in my chest differently if I had chosen to go the other route. If I had called Patrice on day one and said, make this criminal, make it public, burn the relationship to the ground and let me recover the money from the ash. I thought about it. I thought about it seriously. The wire transfer was legally actionable in ways that would have been painful for all of them. I chose the agreement instead. Not because I was a pushover, not because I didn't know what I was entitled to, but because I had looked at my mother's face across the table and seen the specific kind of shame that a person carries when they have failed someone they were supposed to protect, and I had decided that living with that was, in its own way, already a consequence. That doesn't mean I'm not watching. Patrice set up a monitoring structure so that the moment a payment is missed, I have options ready. I don't love that this is necessary. I do it anyway, because love and trust are not the same thing, and because I have learned, at 29, the difference between the two. The first payment comes in on the 15th of the following month. It arrives via bank transfer, exactly the agreed amount, exactly on time. There is no note attached, no message, no apology. I transfer it immediately into a high-yield account I opened, specifically for this. I label the account with a name that only I will ever see, a name that reminds me not of what happened, but of the fact that I handled it, that when something came for what I'd built, I stood up. My mother calls me on a Sunday 3 weeks later, just to talk. She asks about work. She tells me about my niece's school play, the same one Lauren had mentioned, and she tells it more fully this time, with the details that only a grandmother collects: who made the costumes, what song they sang, how my niece had forgotten her line for 2 seconds and then remembered it so perfectly the teacher said she'd been calm as anything. She laughs while she tells it. I laugh too. We do not talk about the money. We don't need to. The agreement talks about the money. The agreement handles the money. What my mother and I are doing carefully, imperfectly, in 15-minute phone calls about school plays and work promotions is something else. It is slower. It is quieter. It does not have a notarized document. I'm not sure yet what it becomes. I am willing to find out. I go back to saving. This is not as straightforward as it sounds. There is something psychological about watching a large number disappear that takes a while to metabolize, a period of staring at the rebuilt balance and feeling the gap between where it is and where it was. I have read that this feeling is normal. I believe it, because I feel it, and I am generally a normal person. But I go back. I adjust my automatic transfers. I open a separate account that is mine alone, that has only my name on it, that no one else has access to. I think about what Patrice said, about the importance of structure, and I apply it not just to the repayment agreement but to my own financial life. I read things I hadn't read before. I make decisions I hadn't made before. The money, in some strange way, gets smarter after what happened to it. There's a walk I take sometimes in the evenings, down through my neighborhood, and along the river path that runs east for about a mile before it loops back through the park. In spring, the trees are starting to come in, the ones along the path, the branches doing that tentative reaching that trees do when they're not yet sure whether to trust the temperature. I walk under them in the early dark, and I think about the version of myself from 7 weeks ago, sitting on the kitchen floor in the morning, staring at a phone screen. She was frightened. She had every right to be, but she got up. That's the thing I keep coming back to when I replay it, which I do less often now but still sometimes. Not the betrayal, not the negotiation, not the papers spread across the dining room table, while my mother looked at a pasta dish she'd made as a peace offering or a distraction, or both. What I keep coming back to is the moment when I got up from the kitchen floor. I didn't know yet what I was going to do. I just knew I was going to do something. That turns out to be enough to start with. Most things do. The money will come back slowly, monthly installments over 5 years, and I will note each one and move it where it belongs, and one day the account will be whole again and I will have built it twice. Once in the ordinary way, carefully and over time, and once through something harder, through the particular work of refusing to let the people you love use love as a reason to undo you. I'm not bitter. I want to be clear about that, because it's important to me that I'm clear about it. I'm not sitting here counting down to some moment of vindication. The moment already happened, at my dining room table, with bad pasta and signed documents, and my father saying we are not the family that does this to each other. That was the moment. It was smaller than I would have imagined and more real. I am 29 years old and my name is Maya, and I know what my account balance is, and I know who has access to it, and I know what I will do if that ever becomes a problem again. The trees along the river are almost fully out now. I walk under them in the evening, and the light comes through the gaps in a particular way, the way light does when it has had to work to get there, and I put my hands in my pockets and I keep walking.